The Harbor and Hearth was doing its best to pretend winter did not exist. Outside Minneapolis was all hard edges and frozen breath streets packed with dirty snow and headlights smeared across ice. Inside, the restaurant glowed. Strings of white Christmas lights wrapped the windows. A fake pine garland sagged over the bar. Every table seemed to hold a small universe of its own, crowded with plates and wine glasses and people leaning close to be heard over whatever song hummed faintly through the speakers. Emma Cole felt the music only as a pulse in the floor under her boots. She sat at a two-top near the window, with her coat folded over the empty chair across from her. A candle flickered beside the untouched bread basket. 4 times the server had refilled her water. 4 times Emma had said thank you, with her hands in her mouth and the polite half-smile that said she was fine. She was not fine. Her phone lay face up on the table screen, dark framed by the reflection of the tiny white lights in the window. Every few minutes she checked the time, although she already knew it. Her brain had been quietly counting from the moment she sat down. 31 minutes, 37, 42. She tried not to replay the last batch of messages with Eli, the man she was supposed to be meeting. His profile picture had been all scruff and dimples, taken somewhere with mountains and a lake. His bio listed the usual craft beer dogs weekend hiking. Toward the end of their chat came the part she dreaded with everyone. I should probably tell you something about me. She remembered staring at that line on her couch 2 nights ago, thumbs hovering over the keyboard. She had typed and deleted 3 different versions. Finally, she sent the one she always sent. I'm deaf. I sign and read lips. I speak a little too. It's not a secret, just something you should know. There were men who disappeared right then, the chat going quiet as if they had walked out of a room without saying goodbye. Eli had not. He had written back almost right away. That's actually really cool. I've always wanted to learn sign language. She had not let herself believe him. Not really. But she had showered and dried her hair and chosen the soft navy dress anyway. She had put on the silver ring Lucas once gave her, the thin band she wore on a chain now. Habit. Armor. At 45 minutes late, her phone vibrated. Emma flinched. For a second, hope flared in her chest, too bright, too wild. Maybe traffic. Maybe he had the wrong restaurant. Maybe. She unlocked the phone. The text was short. Hey, can't make it tonight. The deaf thing is more than I'm looking for. Take care. Her first reaction was nothing. No tears, no sound, no dramatic clutch at her chest. Just a blank white click in her mind. The deaf thing. As if her whole life could be packaged into 2 words tossed into a message like an allergy warning. She stared at the sentence until the shapes of the letters blurred. Her throat tightened. The candle on the table flickered and steadied again. Someone laughed at the bar nearby, loud and sudden. Emma did not hear it, but she saw the bartender's shoulders shake the way the sound rippled through the room. Conversations moved around her like a river around a rock, people lifting glasses, leaning in, sharing the warmth she felt pressed against the glass, yet never quite touching her. Her hand found the chain at her neck and curled around the ring. For a moment, she saw Lucas in a memory so sharp it hurt, standing in their old kitchen in running shorts, hair still damp from the shower, grinning at his phone while he texted her about pasta. That night, there had been a call from a stranger instead of Lucas, then a hospital hallway that smelled like antiseptic and winter coats, then paperwork. Now she got a text. The deaf thing is more than I'm looking for. A strange, hysterical part of her wanted to laugh. The healthiest man she had ever known had dropped dead between meetings at 31. A stranger with a dating app thought signing, instead of talking, took more effort than he was willing to spend. Her eyes burned. Emma blinked hard and took a breath that felt rough and cold on the way in. She closed the message, not trusting herself to look at it again. With deliberate care, she turned the phone over so the screen faced the table. The server approached a young woman with a messy bun and kind eyes that had been growing more concerned each time she passed. "Everything okay?" the server asked, mouth forming the words clearly. Emma watched her lips caught the shape of okay, smiled with only half her face, and nodded. She tapped 2 fingers against her chin in the sign for thank you, and said it out loud as well, the syllables slightly softened at the edges. The server nodded back, not surprised by the mix of voice and hands. People were learning more than they used to, just not the ones who matched with her on apps apparently. She picked up her wallet. Her fingers trembled. The white napkin in her lap had a small damp spot where a tear had fallen without permission. "Check please," she signed, then repeated it clearly. The server hesitated, as if she wanted to say something else, then simply bobbed her head and left. Emma waited, staring at the candle. Wax had spilled over the edge onto the saucer, frozen mid-drip. She wondered how long it had taken to build that little white cliff. There was always a point where something shifted from soft to hard and never went back. She pressed her palms against her thighs to stop the shaking and drew in another breath. In the window, her reflection looked almost composed, blonde hair tucked behind her ears, navy dress, neat lipstick still intact. No one would know that her chest felt hollow. At the other side of the restaurant, in a corner booth, under a crooked wreath, two little girls had been watching her for at least 10 minutes. Mia Parker had carrot slices lined up on the rim of her plate like orange soldiers and a serious frown between her brows. She had already declared them disgusting 3 times. Her sister Layla had calmly eaten hers, and then some of Mia's barely glancing up from the maze on the kids' menu. Their father Noah had been juggling the usual triangle of tasks, convincing Mia that vegetables did not equal Saizen trying to finish his own burger before it went cold, and keeping an eye on his phone in case his mother needed anything at home. Between bites, he followed Mia's gaze to the woman by the window. "Hey," he said quietly, "eat, do not stare." Mia did not stop looking. She stabbed a carrot with her fork and pointed the fork in the woman's direction. "She's sad," Mia said. "Look at her eyebrows." Layla glanced up, then dark curls bouncing against her hoodie. She had the same eyes as her sister, the same slight dimple, but her way of looking at people was different, more careful. "She looks like Grandma on the days she pretends she is not sad," Layla said. Noah's chest tightened. He followed their line of sight again. From here, he could only see the woman's profile, the slope of her nose, the way she held herself a little too straight, like someone trying to stand up under a weight they could not put down. Her shoulders lifted and fell, in a breath that looked heavier than air should be. "Sometimes people have rough nights," he said. "We give them privacy. That is kind." "It is almost Christmas," Mia replied. To her, that seemed like a binding contract against unhappiness. Noah opened his mouth to come up with some response about how emotions did not follow the calendar, but he did not get the chance. At the window table, the server set down a check. The woman signed thank you without thinking, the motion's small and precise hand moving to her chin, in a way that looked like muscle memory. Both girls sat up straighter at the same time. "She signs," Mia said, eyes wide. "Like Grandma." Layla's chair scraped softly as she shifted to a kneel, watching more closely. The woman slid her card into the leather holder, fingers moving with an absent-minded grace. One hand brushed the chain at her neck, the tiny flash of metal catching the light. "Dad," Layla said, tugging his sleeve. "She is deaf." Noah looked again. He had seen his mother sign all his life. He knew the shape of it so well he could spot it from across a crowded room. The movements at the other table were unmistakable. "So, she is," he said. Something in his chest stirred a mix of recognition and something like protectiveness for a stranger he had never met. Mia leaned closer to her sister, their heads touching. They whispered in the way children did, not actually whispering at all, just lowering their voices and assuming the world could not hear. "She should not be alone," Mia said. "Grandma says being the only deaf person in a room is like standing in the middle of everyone and still being outside." "We could go say hi," Layla suggested. "Like we do at Grandma's church when there is someone signing alone." Noah caught that part. "Girls," he said. "No, she is a stranger. We do not walk up to random people and tell them they look sad." Mia looked at him unimpressed. "We would not say she looks sad," she said. "We would say hello." Layla nodded. "Grandma says sometimes saying hello is the same as holding someone's hand," she added. Noah let out a slow breath. He reached for his water, then stopped halfway when he saw Mia's expression, her stubborn look. The one Jenna used to joke was a mirror of his own. He turned his head and saw the woman at the window pick up her coat. The server walked away with the check. The woman brushed her thumb over the edge of her phone, hesitated for just a heartbeat, then slid it into her bag. "Girls," Noah warned. Too late. In perfect synchronization, Mia and Layla slipped out of the booth, sliding under the table with a practiced twist to avoid the mess of legs and chair legs. By the time Noah had set down his glass, they were already 4 steps away, moving fast between tables, curls bouncing as they headed toward the woman by the window. Emma was reaching for her coat when she felt a small tug at her sleeve. She looked down and found 2 little girls staring up at her. Their cheeks were pink from the warmth inside, curls escaping ponytails. Identical eyes gone very wide. One wore a sweatshirt with a glittery unicorn. The other had a t-shirt with a cartoon bridge on it and a smear of ketchup on the collar. The girl in the unicorn sweatshirt lifted her hands. "You look sad. Can we sit with you?" The signs were a little choppy, a little big, but clear. Emma blinked, sure she had read it wrong, then saw the girl's hands repeat the last part. "Can we sit with you?" The other girl nudged her sister out of the way. "I am Layla. That is my sister. She is Mia. We sign because our grandma is deaf." Emma's throat tightened in a different way. She set her coat back on the chair and lowered herself so she was closer to their height. The movement felt automatic, the same as when she knelt in front of her third graders at school. "You sign very well," she answered, hands moving without thinking. "How old are you?" Mia's face lit up when she realized Emma was signing back. "We are 5, she announced. "Almost 6 in February." Layla leaned in, eyes searching Emma's face. "Are you deaf like Grandma?" she asked. Emma nodded once. "Yes." Mia glanced at the empty chair across from the table, then back at Emma. "Did your person not come?" she signed, no hesitation at all. Heat climbed up Emma's neck. Her first instinct was to brush it off, to make a joke, to say something like, "He got lost." The truth sat heavy in her chest, heavier than the coat draped over the chair. "He changed his mind," she signed after a moment. "He decided not to come." "That is rude," Layla said out loud, the words shaped clearly. In sign, she added, "That is very rude." "Girls!" The voice came from behind them, a little breathless. Emma looked up to see a man weaving between tables, a napkin still in his hand. Dark hair pushed back with his fingers, sleeves rolled up, the top button of his shirt undone. His eyes were the same warm brown as the girls'. "I am so sorry," he said, and his hands moved as he spoke, echoing his words. "They are usually more civilized than this." That was clearly not true, but his expression was sincere. Emma rose halfway to her feet. "It is all right," she signed, and said, "It is okay," her voice soft. Both girls spun around. "Daddy," she signs, Mia said, "like Grandma." "I see that." He looked back at Emma. His signing was clumsier than the girl's broader, but it was there. "I am Noah." These two escaped their booth. Again. "I am Emma," she replied, signing her name with the E twisting at her shoulder, as she had taught her students. "They are fine. They were just keeping me company." Because she got stood up, Mia announced loud enough that the couple at the next table turned their heads. Noah's face went a shade redder. "Mia," he said, "we do not announce people's personal business like the Daily News." "It is true," Mia insisted, undeterred. She switched back to signing as if this made it private. "He did not come. That is what she said." Layla nodded gravely. "And it is almost Christmas," she added. Noah ran a hand over his face. When he looked at Emma again, his embarrassment had softened into something that looked like understanding. "I am sorry," he said. "Not just for them, for that." He glanced at her phone on the table of the turn screen. "Whoever he is an idiot." The words were firm, but his tone was gentle enough that Emma felt the sting in her chest ease by a fraction. "Thank you." She signed the motion small. The server returned with the leather folder and set it down between them, eyes flicking from Noah to Emma to the twins who had clearly changed tables without permission. She raised her brows as if asking silently if everything was all right. "Fine," Emma mouthed, adding in the sign again. The server gave the slightest nod and left them to it. "We should let her eat," Noah said to his daughters, signing along. "At her own table, like a normal adult." Mia ignored him completely and turned back to Emma. "We have lots of fries," she signed. "Too many fries. You can help us." Layla added, "Tomorrow we make Christmas cookies with Grandma. She is deaf too. You would like her." "Girls." Noah stepped closer to Emma's table, lowering his voice. "I am really sorry," he said. "Sometimes they think any person who signs is automatically family." Emma felt a laugh tug at the corner of her mouth. It surprised her so much she let it out. "I have met worse rules," she signed. Mia grabbed her hand. "Come sit with us," she said, tugging. "You should not be alone." Emma glanced at her coat on the chair. The empty place setting the candle burned low. The table looked like a scene she could step out of without leaving a mark. She looked back at the booth where Noah had come from. Ketchup bottles, crayons, a kid's menu covered in spirals, 2 half-eaten burgers wrapped in paper, a glass with a straw bent at a sharp angle. The picture of a life already in motion. "You really do not have to," Noah said. His eyes were honest. "They are persistent, but you are allowed to say no." Emma hesitated. Her sister's voice from that morning passed through her mind, the memory of Brooke standing in Emma's tiny kitchen, a mug of coffee in hand. "Just go," Brooke had urged. "So, what if it is awkward? At least you will have one good story." Brooke had not accounted for this particular story. No one would have. Emma felt Mia's small fingers wrapped around her own. The sensation was warm and a little sticky from fry grease. "It is all right," Emma signed slowly. "I can sit for a little while." Mia beamed. Layla's shoulders dropped in relief as if she had been holding her breath. They led the way back to their booth, a solemn procession that was immediately broken when Mia tried to climb under the table instead of around it. Noah stepped aside so Emma could slide into the bench across from him. The twins squeezed in on his side, one on each end, sandwiching their father in the middle. "Sorry," he said as Mia's elbow dug into his ribs. "We are not exactly formal." "I like it," Emma signed, settling her bag at her feet. Mia leaned over the table. What is your favorite cookie, she asked. Emma blinked. The question was so unexpected it took her a second. Sugar cookies, she signed. The kind you cut into shapes. Mia slapped her palm on the table in triumph. Me too. Layla shrugged. Chocolate chip, she said, with more chips than cookie. Typical, Noah muttered. He picked up his burger, then seemed to think better of it and set it down again. So, Emma, he said, running his thumb along a crease in his napkin. His lips moved clearly. His hands followed. What do you do? I teach, she signed. 3rd grade. At Northside Deaf Academy. Mia's eyes went round. All your kids are deaf, she asked. Most, Emma answered. Some are hard of hearing. Some hear but sign because their parents are deaf. She mimed to classroom children at small desks, hands in the air. We learn math, she said, and stories, and how to argue with teachers using very dramatic faces. Mia grinned. We are good at that, she said. Noah watched Emma's hands, the ease of her movements, the way her face animated each sentence. His own signing had always felt functional, a tool he used with his mother and now with his daughters. On Emma, it looked like its own kind of music. What about you? Emma asked, speaking and signing together, as she turned the question back at him. What do you do? He straightened a little. I design bridges, he said. His fingers spelled out the word, then shaped arc and support. Mostly around the city. Over rivers, over highways. Little ones in parks. Mia rolled her eyes. He makes paper everywhere, she said. It is always on the table, like that. She pointed to the end of the booth. Emma followed her finger and saw a rolled blueprint tucked by the salt and pepper shakers. Noah shrugged. I like connecting things that do not touch yet, he said. 2 sides that think they are too far apart. Emma's hand resting on the table curled slightly. The explanation sat with her in a way she did not expect. The server returned with a plate of chicken tenders and a fresh side of fries, dropping them in front of Mia and Layla. The carrot slices still lined Mia's original plate untouched. Noah sighed. Here we go, he said. Carrot negotiation, round 4. Mia wrinkled her nose. They taste like sadness, she said, and dirt. Layla snickered. I ate mine, she told Emma, so I get dessert. Emma looked at the carrots, bright and harmless. She had spent years coaxing suspicious children into trying things they had decided in advance to hate. She leaned forward, catching Mia's gaze. Do you know? She signed to keeping her expression very serious, that orange vegetables help you see in snowstorms. Mia frowned. No, they do not. Yes, they do, Emma said. At least that is what I tell my students. Very important if you wanted to see Santa's sleigh in the sky before anyone else. Layla studied Emma's face. You are lying, she said, but there was a flicker of doubt. Emma gasped, hand to her chest in mock offense. Would a teacher lie about Christmas magic? Mia looked at the carrots as if they had transformed. She picked one up, held it in front of her eyes, then popped it in her mouth. She chewed slowly, as if waiting for her vision to sharpen. Another carrot followed. Layla, not to be outdone, grabbed 2 at once. Noah stared. I have been battling them for 20 minutes, he said. You say Santa sleigh and it is over. Emma smiled. Teacher secrets, she signed. The warmth in her chest this time felt very different from the burn of the text message. So, Noah said after a few moments, wiping his hands on his napkin, can I ask what kind of man does not show up for dinner with you? Mia opened her mouth, clearly ready to add commentary, but he held up a finger. You hush, he said gently. Let her answer if she wants to. Emma looked down at her water glass. The ice had melted to cloudy cubes, clinking softly when she tapped the side. He is someone from an app, she signed. His name is Eli. He said he wanted to learn sign language. Then he sent a message. She did not repeat it word for word, but she lifted one hand, fingers spelling DEAF before letting it drop. He decided my deafness was too much work, she said, more than he wanted. There was a silence around the table that had nothing to do with the noise level in the room. Noah's jaw tightened. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but his hands cut sharper through the air. Then he is smaller than you think he is, he said, and he does not deserve to be here. Emma let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Thank you, she signed. Mia glared at the empty spot beside Emma's table. He is a meanie, she declared. That is a real word. My teacher says so. Layla nodded. Grandma says some people think different is heavy, she said. They are wrong. The server appeared with the check, this time held over their booth, instead of Emma's abandoned table. She smiled at all 4 of them, as if they had always been sitting together. I put everything on one, she said to Noah, if that is okay. Before Emma could protest, Noah was already reaching for his wallet. No, she signed. You do not have to pay for my food. I invited you over, he said. Well, they did. Consider it your fee for carrot mediation. She hesitated, then let her hand fall. Thank you, she said instead. Mia bounced in her seat. Tell her, she whispered loudly to Layla. Layla elbowed her. You tell her. Mia turned to Emma, eyes shining. Tomorrow we make Christmas cookies, she said, with Grandma, at our house. You should come. Emma blinked. Tomorrow, she signed. I have errands, laundry, papers to grade. Layla leaned closer. Grandma is deaf, she said softly. Like you. She likes when there is another person to sign with. And you should not be alone. Noah's fingers tightened around the pen he was holding. Girls, Emma has a life, he said, probably plans. You cannot just pull her into ours. Emma looked at the twins. They were both watching her with identical hope, small hands resting on the table, ready to move into signs again. She heard Brooke in her mind. At least you will have one good story. Emma reached for a clean corner of the paper placemat. Noah slid the pen toward her automatically. She wrote her number, then pushed it back. Give your grandma my number, she signed. If she wants help with cookies, she can text me. Mia squealed. That means yes, she said. Emma smiled, the expression reaching her eyes this time. It means maybe, she corrected, but it is a good maybe. When she finally stepped out of the harbor and hearth, the cold bit at any skin not covered by wool or cotton. Snowflakes landed in her hair and on her coat. Behind her, through the window, she saw the blur of a man and two little girls at a booth, hands moving in the language that had always felt like home, even in rooms that did not. She tightened her hand around the strap of her bag and walked into the falling snow. Emma almost convinced herself they had forgotten. Saturday morning crawled by in a blur of small tasks. She made coffee that went cold on the counter. She put a load of laundry in and forgot to start the machine. Papers from Northside Deaf Academy were spread across her tiny kitchen table, math worksheets with smudged pencil marks and uneven numbers. She tried to focus on fractions, red pen moving through circles and squares. Every time her phone vibrated on the table, her eyes flicked to it. Spam email, store discount, weather alert about dropping temperatures. Nothing from an unknown number. She told herself that was fine. She had given her information because two 5-year-olds with huge eyes had asked, not because she expected anything. People said nice things in the moment all the time. They did not always follow through. Just before noon, as she was circling another correct answer, her phone buzzed again. This time, the preview showed a number she did not recognize and a short line of text. Hi, Emma. This is Evelyn, this girl's grandmother. Emma's heart stumbled once in her chest. She wiped her hands on her leggings, even though there was nothing on them, and opened the message. Mia and Layla tell me you are a cookie expert. We start at 2. We would love your help if you are free. Address is 4118 Willow Court. The message ended with a little flower emoji. The girls must have added that part. For a long moment, Emma just stared at the screen. Her brain supplied a dozen reasons to say no. Papers to grade, laundry that actually needed washing, the simplicity of not getting more entangled with people who already had their own orbit. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. I would love to, she typed. Thank you. I will be there at 2. She hit send before she could overthink it, then looked up at the clock on the stove. 1 hour and 40 minutes. Enough time to actually wash the laundry, pick out a sweater that did not have pen on the cuff, and maybe remember how to breathe. Snow was falling again when she pulled onto Willow Court. Not the sharp, windy kind from 2 nights ago, but slow, lazy flakes that drifted under streetlights. The houses here were mostly 1- and 2-story places with small porches and narrow driveways. Holiday decorations glowed from lawns and windows, some tasteful, some wild. The Parker's house was the one with a crooked inflatable snowman leaning to one side and a string of multicolored lights that sagged in the middle. Someone had started building a snow fort by the front walkway. A hand-painted sign in the yard read, Parker Cookie Factory, in bright, uneven letters. Emma parked at the curb and sat for a second, engine ticking softly as it cooled. Her breath fogged the inside of the windshield. She rubbed it clear with the side of her glove, then shut off the car. From the sidewalk, she could already smell something, sweet sugar and butter, riding the cold air. She climbed the 3 steps to the porch and knocked. The vibrations of footsteps reached her through the boards a moment before the door flew open. You came, Mia and Layla said together. They both had flour on their noses and streaks of something sticky on their sleeves. Mia wore a Christmas apron with a cartoon gingerbread man on it. Layla's apron was splattered with green food coloring. Emma laughed at the sound catching on the cold. Of course I came, she sighed. I said I would. Mia seized her hand and tugged her inside. The sudden warmth wrapped around her as she stepped over the threshold. Her glasses fogged instantly. Layla shut the door with a thump that rattled the small wreath. Inside, the house felt full in a way that had nothing to do with size. The living room spilled into a dining area and then into the kitchen. Toys occupied corners and under tables, a basket of blocks half dumped out near the couch, crayons scattered on a coffee table. that also held a stack of mail and a mug with a faint ring of coffee at the bottom. The walls held framed photos, some professional, some clearly printed at home. In one, Mia and Layla, as toddlers, sat in a kiddie pool, cheeks glistening with watermelon juice. In another, Noah stood beside an older woman with silver hair, both of them smiling at the camera while their hands shaped a sign mid-air. A real Christmas tree stood in the corner, branches uneven lower half overloaded with handmade ornaments. Paper snowflakes, popsicle stick stars. A few ceramic bulbs the girls clearly had not been allowed to touch. The whole room smelled like pine and cinnamon and heat from the vents. "Shoes off, please," Layla said, remembering her manners. "Grandma says snow belongs outside." Emma toed off her boots and lined them up beside a row of smaller shoes, her toes curled in her socks, grateful for the warmth. Mia tugged again. "Kitchen," she said. "We are in the middle of a situation." The situation was clear as soon as Emma stepped through the doorway. The kitchen counter was covered in ingredients. Bags of flour, open sugar canisters, sticks of butter softening on plates. A stand mixer hummed quietly, its vibrations tickling the soles of Emma's feet. The table held baking sheets lined with parchment paper and a clutter of cookie cutters in star tree and snowman shapes. At the center of it all stood a woman in her early 60s, gray hair twisted into a loose knot, glasses perched low on her nose. Her apron had a pattern of faded cardinals. Her hands were dusted in flour up to the wrists. She looked up as the girls dragged Emma in. For a split second, her eyes simply took in the scene, then her whole face broke into a smile that reached every line. "You must be Emma," she signed, hands moving with light practice speed. "I am Evelyn. Thank you for saving them from carrot tragedy last night." Emma's shoulders loosened at the instant ease of it. "It is nice to meet you," she replied. "Your granddaughters are very persuasive." Evelyn laughed, soundless but clear in the way her shoulders shook the wrinkle at the corner of her eyes. "They get that from their mother," she said. She had opinions about vegetables, too. Mia was already climbing onto a chair to reach the counter. "Grandma, show her the dough," she insisted. "It keeps sticking." Evelyn gestured Emma closer. "We are on batch 2, she said. Batch 1 became something else. Mia, what did you call it? A disaster, Mia signed cheerfully, but a tasty disaster. Emma peered into the mixing bowl. The dough looked workable enough, a little soft at the edges. "More flour," she suggested. "Just a bit, and they might be pressing too hard when they cut." "We are making stars," Layla said, "and trees, and one dinosaur if Grandma lets us." Evelyn gave a theatrical sigh. "One dinosaur," she conceded. "No more than that. Dinosaurs were not at Bethlehem." Mia rolled her eyes. "You were not there," she said. Evelyn pointed a floury finger at her. "Go wash your hands," she ordered. "Both of you. You are touching everything." The girls grumbled in unison but obeyed, hopping down and racing toward the sink. Emma watched them go, then turned back to Evelyn. "You signed beautifully," Emma said. "It is nice." "It is survival," Evelyn replied with a small shrug. "When you are born into a hearing family, in the 1960s, you learn to fight for your hands." Her fingers slowed a fraction, not from lack of skill, but to make sure Emma caught every word. "My parents did not learn," she went on. "They loved me, but they thought speech was the only way. I spent years lip-reading words I did not understand. Everything was hard work." Emma nodded. She could imagine it. She had read stories like Evelyn's taught history lessons about it to her students. "When did you start signing?" Emma asked. 12, Evelyn answered. "A neighbor told my parents about a summer camp for deaf kids. First morning there, I saw 2 girls on the lawn talking without sound. Full conversations, jokes, gossip. I thought I was watching magic." Her hands painted the memory in the air that first day at camp, that first feeling of understanding. "I went home and told my parents I was not broken," she said. "Just bilingual. They did not like it at first. Then they saw it made me happy. Eventually they learned a few signs, not many. Enough." She glanced toward the hallway where the girls' voices floated faintly, then back at Emma. "When Noah was born, I promised myself my grandchildren would not ever feel alone in their own house," she said. Emma felt the words settle around her like an extra layer of warmth. "I was lucky," Emma said. "My parents learned sign as soon as they knew. I grew up with it. I did not realize until later that the rest of the world was not as quick." She thought of one message on a screen in a restaurant, one sentence that had reduced her entire being to an inconvenience. "Most people are fine until they realize they have to change something," she signed. "Turn on captions, learn a few signs, face me when they speak. Then some of them disappear." Evelyn's mouth tightened. "Then let them disappear," she said. "They are not worth the sugar." "Grandma says fools do not deserve cookies," Mia called from the sink, having clearly been watching over her shoulder. You are not supposed to eavesdrop, Evelyn told her. Mia wiped her wet hands on a towel and scampered back to the table. We were not eavesdropping, she said. We were just listening with our eyes. Layla followed, hands dripping. Evelyn caught her by the wrist and actually dried them before releasing her. All right, Evelyn said. Emma, can you help them roll and cut before we end up with cookie glue again? Of course, Emma replied. They fell into a rhythm quickly. Emma dusted the counter with flour, showing the girls how to press the dough gently so it did not stick. Their small hands pressed metal cutters into the soft surface, working carefully along the edges. Star Mia announced each time she lifted a shape free. Tree, snowman, dinosaur, she added triumphantly when she snuck the dinosaur cutter onto the sheet. Layla leaned against Emma's arm as she concentrated on a perfect star point. I like your bracelet, she said, suddenly nodding at the chain with the ring around Emma's wrist. Emma glanced down, fingers brushing the metal. Thank you, she said. From the doorway behind them came a new set of vibrations heavier than the girls' light steps. Emma turned her head. Noah stood there with a grocery bag in one arm and his coat unzipped. His hair was damp, dark curls clinging to his forehead. Snow dotted the shoulders of his jacket, melting into dark spots. For a second, he only looked at the scene in front of him, the flour on the counter, the mixers, the cutters, the girls pressed to Emma's side. Evelyn's hands flying as she scolded Mia for trying to eat raw dough. Something eased in his features. Hey, he said, and tipped his chin at Emma. His hands followed automatically. You made it. I said I would, she signed. He lifted the bag. Emergency sprinkles run, he said. Someone, he glanced at Mia, believes there is no such thing as too much. Correct, Mia said, unabashed. He set the bag on the counter and shrugged out of his coat. As he passed the oven, he checked the dial, a quick habitual motion. His fingers brushed the handle, and Emma watched how natural it looked, this moving through his own kitchen with people everywhere. You bake often, she asked. He puffed a small laugh. I follow directions and hope for the best, he signed. Mom runs the operation. Evelyn snorted. You burn toast, she reminded him. Only sometimes, he shot back. Emma smiled, her hands still on the rolling pin. They worked together, the next sheet of cookies filling fast. The room held the soft sounds of a house in motion. Cabinets opening, the hum of the refrigerator, the low rattle of the heater. The smells of dough and vanilla thickened as the oven warmed. When the first batch came out, the girls cheered. Evelyn slid the tray onto cooling racks, steam curling up with the smell of butter and sugar. The cookies were imperfect in shape, edges a little rough, some stars more like blobs, but Mia clapped her hands as if they were works of art. Decorating unleashed a new level of chaos. The girls attacked bowls of frosting with small butter knives, streaking white and red and green across cookie surfaces. Sprinkles flew like confetti, bouncing off the table, the floor of their shirts. Emma tried to guide the flood into a stream. Little circles, she said, demonstrating on a tree. Just enough. See, like this. Mia nodded solemnly and then dumped half a bottle of tiny silver balls on a single snowflake. It is a very important snowflake, she explained. Layla worked more carefully, tongue between her teeth, creating neat patterns that looked almost too pretty to eat. You are good at this, Evelyn said quietly to Emma, watching her gently redirect a frosting knife before it tipped off the edge of the table. I have practice, Emma replied. 23rd graders a year. Frosting is just glitter you can eat. Evelyn chuckled, then wiped a smear of green from Emma's cheek with the corner of her apron. When the last cookie had been showered with sugar and color, the girls finally stopped to actually eat one. Crumbs dotted their chins. Their eyes were bright and a little glassy from the sugar rush. Evelyn looked at the clock on the microwave, then at Emma. Stay for dinner, she signed. We made too much pasta. It is nothing fancy, but it is hot, and the girls will mutiny if I let you go. Emma opened her mouth automatically to decline. The words I should go hovered on her tongue. Laundry, work, the comfort of retreating before she cared too much. Mia slipped her hand into Emma's. Please, she said. Her fingers tightened. We can show you our room. Layla nodded, leaning her head against Emma's arm as if the decision were already made. Emma took in the kitchen again. The cooling cookies, the cluttered counters, the way warmth seemed to gather in the corners. She thought briefly of her quiet apartment with its single plate in the drying rack, its small tree in the corner of the living room. She looked back at Evelyn. I would like that, she signed. Evelyn's smile was simple and pleased. Good, she said. Then we will all eat. Dinner turned out to be spaghetti in a chipped white serving bowl, garlic bread on a baking sheet, and a salad that had clearly been assembled by two small helpers. There were too many croutons in one corner and almost no lettuce in another. They pushed the cookie chaos to one end of the table and made room for plates. Evelyn shooed Mia and Layla into washing their hands again, this time under close supervision. Noah carried in the spaghetti forearms, flexing under the weight of the bowl. He set it down in the middle of the table and caught Emma's eye. "I hope you are not expecting anything fancy," he said. His hands repeated the words. "This is weeknight level, not holiday level." "It smells good," Emma signed. "That counts." They all squeezed around the table. Mia insisted Emma sit between her and Layla. Noah took the chair across from Emma Evelyn at the head near the kitchen for easy access. The meal was noisy in the way of comfortable homes. Forks scraped plates. The girls argued over who had more bread. Somebody's cup tipped water rushing toward the edge until Evelyn caught it with a quick grab and a towel. Emma twirled spaghetti on her fork, tasting the sauce. It was a little salty, heavy on the jarred tomato, utterly ordinary. It felt like something you ate on nights when you were tired but still showed up for each other. Mia demonstrated what she called the correct way to eat spaghetti. One noodle at a time, she declared, slurping it in until sauce dotted her chin. "Absolutely not," Noah said, fighting a smile. "That is illegal in several countries." Layla dabbed her mouth with a napkin in exaggerated elegance. "I am a lady," she told Emma. "I use my napkin." Evelyn watched Emma quietly between bites, taking in the way she laughed with the girls, the way she checked their signs gently when they rushed and tangled their fingers. "You teach third grade," Evelyn signed at one point. Emma nodded. "Yes, 8 and 9-year-olds. "You are patient," Evelyn said. "I see it." Emma felt a flush rise in her cheeks that had nothing to do with the warmth of the pasta. "I try," she replied. After plates had been scraped clean and the last bitten edge of garlic bread vanished, Mia pushed back her chair. "Show Emma the pictures," she said. "The books." Layla gasped. "Yes, the books." Evelyn wiped her hands and stood. "The books," she agreed, "always." She stepped into the living room and returned with 2 thick photo albums, their corners worn soft. She set them on the coffee table and patted the couch. "Come," she signed. "It is time for history." Mia and Layla dove for the couch. Emma followed more slowly, perching on the edge. Noah settled into the armchair nearby, one leg stretched out, one tucked under. Evelyn opened the first album. On the first page, a young Evelyn held a baby Noah, both of them squinting at the camera under bright summer light. Her hair was darker, his cheeks impossibly round. The next pages flipped by years at a time. School pictures with crooked ties, Halloween costumes, a teenager Noah standing next to a half-built science fair project that looked suspiciously like a model bridge. Jenna arrived around the middle of the book. In the first photo, she stood next to Noah outside some city building, both of them in cheap business clothes, name tags clipped to their shirts. In the next, they sat on a picnic blanket, laughing at something out of frame hands in the air mid-sign. "She was pretty," Emma signed softly. "Dark hair, big smile, eyes crinkled at the corners." "She was," Evelyn replied, "and loud." She made Noah talk more, even with his hands. Noah huffed a quiet breath. His fingers traced the edge of the photo. "She started as the intern who corrected my math," he said, then refused to stop. Evelyn flipped to a wedding picture. Jenna in a simple white dress, hair pulled back, one hand in Noah's, the other spelling love in the air. Noah in a suit that did not quite fit his shoulders yet, eyes only half on the camera, the rest on her. "Did she sign?" Emma asked. Fluently, Evelyn answered. "She insisted. She told me if she was going to love my son, she had to understand how his mother told him stories." Emma smiled without meaning to. The next photos were of a small house that might have been this one before toys and time had rearranged it. Then came baby pictures. Mia and Layla as newborns, each in a different colored hat. Noah in hospital scrubs, hair flat under a cap, eyes glazed with exhaustion and awe. Jenna on a narrow hospital bed, holding both babies, joy pouring off the page. Mia pointed proudly. "That is me," she said, tapping the baby in purple. "Layla is in green." "We were very small," Layla observed. "You screamed," Mia told her. "You drooled," Layla returned. Evelyn turned another page. The twins at 6 months, propped up in high chairs, mashed peas on their faces. The twins at 1, clutching at furniture, mouths open mid-squeal. In several of the pictures, Evelyn's hands were in motion. Sometimes Jenna's were too. In one, Noah stood behind Jenna while she signed to one of the girls in a bouncy seat, both of them laughing. Emma's chest ached in a way that felt both sharp and oddly sweet. "You had a beautiful life," she signed quietly to Noah. "We did," he replied. His eyes stayed on a photo where Jenna held both girls on her hips, kissing the top of one head, his arm around her shoulders. They were outside in winter coats, snow piled in the background, cheeks pink from the cold. "Then what happened?" Mia asked, though she knew. She always asked. Evelyn closed the album with one hand, leaving her fingers resting on the cover. "That is enough pictures for now," she said. Layla leaned into Emma's side. "Mommy went to heaven," she said, voice soft, but steady. 2 years ago. Emma nodded. She had guessed as much, but hearing it from the child's mouth made it solid. I am sorry, she told them. It was an accident at work, Noah said, his gaze joining theirs. A stupid elevator malfunction. 3 floors. She was only 34. He did not embellish. He did not need to. The details hung in the space between them. Emma swallowed. My fiancé died at work too, she signed. Heart attack. He was 31. Mia's head snapped up. That is young, she said. Yes. What was his name, Layla asked. Lucas, Emma answered. He sent me a text about pasta. Then someone else called from his phone. Noah's fingers tightened around his knee. I am sorry, he said. The words were simple. There was no fixing in them, only acknowledgement. Evelyn closed the albums and slid them aside. Enough sadness, she said. Mia, Layla, show Emma your play. Mia brightened immediately. Yes, the Nativity. Layla hopped off the couch, grabbing Emma's hand. You have to sit here, she said, dragging her to a specific spot on the sofa. Best seat. Evelyn dimmed the overhead light just enough that the glow from the tree and a side lamp softened the room. She sank back into her chair with a little sigh, her hands folded ready to watch. Mia disappeared down the hall and returned with a blue pillowcase draped over her head and a doll wrapped in a dish towel. Layla followed, wearing a brown hoodie and a paper beard taped to her chin. I am Mary, Mia announced. She signed the name with exaggerated reverence. This is baby Jesus. And I am Joseph, Layla said. I have a very important stick. Her stick, upon closer inspection, was a wooden spoon. They launched into their retelling with all the solemnity and chaos of 6-year-olds. There were shepherds who entered too early, played by stuffed animals propped on chairs. An enthusiastic angel Mia had recruited last minute, represented by a glittery star taped to a broom. Emma laughed until her stomach hurt. The story came through in fragments, some remembered from church, some clearly invented. At one point, Layla's beard came loose and hung off one ear. Mia lost the doll and improvised with a cookie tin. And then Mia said, lifting the tin high, everyone was happy. The end. She bowed low. Layla bowed too, then tugged her beard off with relief. Wait, Mia said. One more. Song. She broke into a Christmas carol slightly off key, but full of commitment, turning in a slow circle. Layla signed along to the lyrics, her hands a beat behind, creating a shaky but sincere accompaniment. When they finished breathless and proud, Emma clapped hard, the sound of her palms sharp in her own chest. That was amazing, she told them. You should be very proud. We are, Mia said. We have practiced for weeks. Bedtime, Evelyn declared. You will perform again tomorrow for your cousins. It is time to become children and not performers. The groaning was theatrical, but the yawns that followed were real. Sugar and excitement had finally burned through. Noah stood and stretched. Teeth pajamas, all of it, he said. Let us go. Layla reached for Emma's hand again. Come help, she said. It is part of visiting. Emma glanced at Evelyn. If you want, Evelyn said. They have decided you are safe. That feels like a very high honor, Emma replied. Who is seed? The twins' room was at the end of the hall door, already covered in stickers. Inside, 2 twin beds faced each other across a rug dotted with stars. One bed had a mountain of stuffed animals, the other a wall of books, stacked in uneven towers. I sleep here, Mia said, pointing to the bed with the stuffed animals. Layla sleeps there. She likes to read too much. You snore, Layla said. Do not, Mia returned. Noah gently separated the argument with a hand on each small shoulder. Brush, he said, tilting his head toward the bathroom. Then we can fight about snoring. They brushed and changed into pajamas, talking around their toothbrushes. When they climbed into bed, Emma helped tuck blankets around Layla's feet. Will you come back, Layla asked quietly, eyes already heavy. If your dad and grandma say yes, Emma answered. I would like to. Please come back, Mia added from the other bed. We like you. Your hands make pretty stories. Emma's vision blurred. I like you too, she told them. Very much. Noah switched on a small nightlight that projected tiny stars onto the ceiling. Good night, monsters, he said. Good night, they chorused. As Emma and Noah stepped back into the hall, Mia's voice floated after them. Daddy, tell Emma the rules, she called. What rules? Emma whispered, automatically keeping her voice low. She believes visiting twice means you are family, Noah said. His smile was small. We have not had many people test that rule. They returned to the living room. Somewhere during the play, Evelyn had disappeared down the hall, leaving them alone with the soft glow of the tree and the faint tick of the thermostat. Emma sank onto the couch, feeling the day settle along her bones. Noah dropped back into his chair, stretching his legs out. Thank you, he said after a moment, for staying, for tolerating their play and our chaos. Emma shook her head. I liked it, she said. All of it. Silence settled for a beat, not the awkward kind. the kind that allowed breath. Noah rested his wrists on his knees. "Do you ever feel," he said slowly, his hands following guilty, "when you have a good day?" Emma looked up. "Yes," she answered. "All the time, like I am leaving him behind." He nodded once. "Me too," he said. "Sometimes I am laughing, and then I think of Jenna, and it feels like I am laughing at her instead of with her." "We are not," Emma said, "but it feels that way. Most days I'm just trying to keep the girls afloat," he admitted. "I forget I'm supposed to live too." "Me too," she signed. "My students, my work. It is easier to make it about them." They sat with it, the shared weight of that admission. The tree lights blinked, one bulb flickering for a second before steadying. Eventually, Emma checked the time on her phone. It was later than she thought. "I should go," she said. "You have had enough of me for one day." Noah stood when she did. "Thank you again," he said, walking her to the door. "For coming when two small strangers invited you." "They are not strangers anymore," she replied. Be easy. He opened the door. Cold air slid in, crisp and biting. The yard lay under a thin layer of fresh snow, the crooked snowman leaning in the dim porch light. "Drive safe," he said. She nodded, pulling her coat tight around her. On the porch she paused and turned back. "Thank you for letting me in," she signed. His eyes held hers. "Anytime," he said. She stepped out into the night. The snow crunched softly under her boots. Behind her, through the front window, she could see the tree, the outline of a man picking up stray toys, the flash of a photograph frame catching the light. Her apartment would be quiet when she arrived. The small tree in her living room would glow for no one. The thought did not sting the way it usually did. As she walked down the path to her car, she touched the ring on her wrist and spoke under her breath, the words half for Lucas, half for herself. "I am trying," she said. "I am still here." Christmas morning came in sharp and bright. The sky over Minneapolis was a pale winter blue, the kind that looked almost washed clean. Snow from the last storm lay packed on the lawns, crusted at the top and catching the light. Emma pulled up to Willow Court at 9:06 and turned off the engine. The Parker house looked different in daylight. The sagging string of lights was still there, but now she could see the paint peeling on the porch rail, the chalk drawings on the walkway, the cluster of boot prints stamped into the snow near the steps. Through the front window, the tree glowed against the glass ornaments, catching the sun and scattering tiny colors on the floor. She sat in the car for one breath, then two. Her bracelet chain slipped cool against her skin when she pushed her coat sleeve back. The ring Lucas had given her gleamed faintly in the light. "You chose this," she reminded herself. Then she opened the door. As she reached the porch, she heard something faint through the wood under her boots. Not sound exactly. A pulse. The thrum of small feet pounding in some kind of rhythm. She wiped her gloved hand on her coat and lifted it to knock. Through the pane of frosted glass in the door, she could just make out shapes. Two small bodies, jumping arms waving. A digital beep, thin and insistent, vibrated through the frame of the house. She counted in her head. 3, 2, 1. Emma knocked at 9:07 exactly. The door flew open, as if someone had been holding the knob waiting for the impact. "You did it," Mia shouted. 9:07. She bounced in place in fuzzy reindeer pajamas. Layla stood beside her in a shirt with candy canes on it, hair a wild halo around her head. "We had a timer," Layla informed Emma, signing crisp and proud. "We wrote you on the schedule." She pointed to a piece of paper taped to the wall near the door. In shaky block letters it read, 8:00 wake up, 8:05 scream 8, 10 coffee for Grandma and Dad, 9:07 Emma. Emma laughed, unable to help it. "I am honored," she said. "I have never been on a schedule before." Come in, come in. It is cold," Evelyn called from somewhere behind the kids. Warmth and the rich smell of something sweet rushed out to meet Emma as she stepped inside. She pulled the door closed behind her shoulders, relaxing as the chill fell away. Evelyn appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Her apron today had snowflakes on it. A smear of something cinnamon-colored streaked her forearm. "Merry Christmas," she signed, her face bright. "Merry Christmas," Emma answered. Noah emerged from the hallway with a mug in his hand and a different kind of sleepiness in his eyes. His t-shirt had a faded college logo on it. There was a smear of flour on his jaw, like he had wiped his face and missed a spot. "Morning," he said. "You are right on time. The schedule committee will be pleased." "The committee is already pleased," Mia said. She grabbed Emma's wrist and peered at the bracelet with the ring. "You wore it." Emma glanced down. "Always," she said. She had brought a canvas bag over her shoulder. When she bent to unlace her boots, the gifts inside shifted with a rustle of paper. She set the bag just inside the door out of the way and followed the girls toward the living room. The space felt even cozier than it had the night before. The tree lights glowed warm. Wrapping paper piles waited like small explosions under the branches, some neat, some clearly wrapped by small hands. The couch had been reassigned as a staging area, blankets draped over the back, a basket of extra bows on the table. "We did not open everything yet," Layla explained. "Only stockings. We saved the rest." Emma smiled. "Good," she signed. "I did not want to miss it." Noah took a swallow from his mug and set it on the side table. "Ground rules," he said. "One at a time. Nobody opens anyone else's present. Mia, that includes trying to peek at mine." Mia pressed a hand to her chest. "Me," she asked, all innocence. Evelyn snorted. "You are the worst offender," she told her. They settled in. Emma found herself on the floor near the tree without quite remembering how she got there. The carpet was soft under her jeans. The air buzzed with anticipation. The girls insisted Emma open one small package first to get in the spirit. It turned out to be a pair of fuzzy socks with tiny snowmen on the toes. She laughed and immediately pulled them on, tucking her cold feet into them with genuine gratitude. Then it was the twins' turn. Noah handed them each a box in the same wrapping paper. They tore into them with surgical focus paper flying. Inside were stuffed puppies, each with floppy ears and a different colored collar. "Mine is Daisy," Mia declared instantly. Layla considered hers more thoughtfully. "I think mine is Scout," she decided. They hugged the toys, then promptly set them on Emma's lap. "They need to learn, sign," Mia said. "You can teach them." Emma obliged, taking one soft paw and shaping it gently. "This is Hello," she told them. "And this is Cookie." Mia giggled so hard she almost fell over. Noah's gifts included a new set of drawing pens from Evelyn and a sweatshirt that both girls had picked out. It was 2 sizes too big and had a cartoon bridge on the front. He put it on anyway over his t-shirt, arms disappearing into the sleeves. When there was a natural pause, Emma reached for her bag. "I brought some things too," she said. The twins clapped. For Noah, she pulled out a hardback book. The cover showed an elegant stone bridge arching over a river at dusk. "It is about bridges all over the world," she signed. "The designs, the stories. I thought you might like it." He accepted it, fingers running over the title. "That is very thoughtful," he said. "No joking this time. Thank you." For Evelyn, Emma had chosen a soft scarf in a rich, deep blue. When she unfolded it, the color caught the light and seemed to warm the air. "It looked like you," Emma told her. "Strong and warm and a little bright." Evelyn touched the fabric, then wrapped it around her neck, fingers lingering at the knot. "It is perfect," she said. "I have never had a scarf that was a compliment before." For Mia and Layla, Emma pulled out 2 small notebooks with matching covers. The pages inside were lined on one side and blank on the other. "These are journals," she said. "You can draw on one side and write or sign notes on the other. Stories, secrets, anything." Mia opened hers immediately. "I can make a list of cookie recipes," she said. Layla ran her finger down the blank line. "I can write dreams," she decided. Wrapping paper accumulated in drifts. The living room looked like a storm had passed through, leaving only shreds and new treasures. "Okay," Noah said. "Last one." He reached behind the tree and pulled out a small square box wrapped in silver paper. It had Emma's name on it in careful block letters. Her breath caught a little. "For me," she signed, pointing to herself. "For you," he said. "From all of us." Mia and Layla scooted closer, knees touching Emma's legs. Evelyn watched from the couch, hands still and expectant. Emma slid a finger under the tape and peeled the paper back slowly. Inside was a white cardboard box. Her fingers felt clumsy as she lifted the lid. Nestled in soft cotton lay a slender silver bracelet. 3 small charms hung from the chain. The first was a tiny hand finger shaped into the sign for E. The second was a delicate snowflake. The third was a miniature bridge, simple but recognizable, its arch smooth and sure. Emma's vision blurred. She blinked hard, but the tears came anyway, hot and sudden, and impossible to stop. Mia pointed at each charm in turn. "E is for Emma," she said. "And snow because you came when it was snowing." Layla reached for the bridge. "And this is because Daddy builds bridges," she added. "And because you help us connect." "Now you are part of our Christmas," Mia said, as if it were the most obvious fact in the world. Emma swallowed. Her throat felt too tight for her voice, so she let her hands speak instead. "It is beautiful," she signed. "Thank you, thank you." Her fingers shook. "Excuse me," she managed to say, "just for a minute." She handed the bracelet to Evelyn to hold and stood moving toward the hallway. The bathroom at the end was small. Its mirror slightly spotted the counter crowded with toothbrushes and hair ties. She closed the door and leaned against it, pressing her palms flat to the cool wood. The tears came in a quiet rush. No sobs, just release. Her reflection in the mirror did not look dramatic. Slightly red eyes, damp lashes, the same face she saw every morning. Yet something in it seemed shifted. softer at the edges. She turned on the faucet and splashed a little water on her cheeks, more for the gesture than anything. Then she took a breath and went back. When she re-entered the living room, the noise dropped a little. 4 faces turned toward her. Mia's concerned, Layla's serious, Noah's searching, Evelyn's knowing. I cried because I am happy she signed before anyone could ask. Mia relaxed. Good, she said. Happy crying is allowed, Sid Evelyn told her. Let me put it on. Emma held out her wrist. Evelyn fastened the bracelet with steady fingers, then patted her hand. There, she said, it belongs. The girls spent the rest of the morning introducing their new toys to Emma. The stuffed puppies needed names practiced in sign. The journals required first entries, which Emma helped spell. Noah flipped through his bridge book on the couch, pausing to show Emma pictures of designs he liked, asking her opinion about which ones would work in cold climates. By late morning, the house smelled like something else entirely. Cinnamon sugar butter. Evelyn's cinnamon rolls rescued from the oven and iced until the frosting melted into the warm spirals. They ate them at the table, finger-sticky faces smeared with sugar. Emma licked a bit of frosting from her thumb and decided very quietly that there might not be anything better in the world than a cinnamon roll in a house full of people who were glad she was there. After breakfast as lunch, the day folded into itself. They built a fort out of the cardboard boxes the gifts had come in, dragging blankets over the top, between the couch and the armchair. Inside, the light came in soft and dappled through the fabric. The girls insisted everyone crawl in at least once. Noah had to contort his long legs to fit. He bumped into Emma's knee in the cramped space. Sorry, he said. His shoulder brushed hers, warm through the sweaters. It is a good fort, she signed. Very strong. Of course, Mia said. Dad helped. He makes bridges and forts. They played a board game that had missing pieces. The girls made up new rules to compensate. They watched half a Christmas movie with captions on, while Evelyn dozed in her chair, scarf still around her neck. At some point in the mid-afternoon lull, Mia climbed onto the couch beside Emma and curled into her side head on Emma's shoulder. Layla followed, tucking herself under Emma's other arm, journal clutched against her chest. You are a good pillow, Mia murmured. Warm, Layla added. Emma laughed softly, the sound barely more than a breath. Within minutes, their weight grew heavier as their bodies relaxed. Their breathing slowed. Noah appeared in the doorway, holding 2 fresh cups of coffee. He took in the scene and froze for a moment, as if afraid to disturb it. They never nap, he said quietly. His hands shaped the words more slowly, careful not to move too fast. Not like this, not in months. Should I move them? Emma whispered, though she knew they would not hear. He shook his head. They will be furious if they wake up somewhere else, he said, and I would rather deal with that than mess this up. He set the coffee on the table and sank into the armchair, watching. Thank you for having me, Emma signed across the small space. For this. Noah leaned back, head resting against the cushion. Thank you for being here, he replied. This is the first Christmas since Jenna died that feels like more than just surviving the day. Emma looked down at the sleeping girls, at the way their fingers had found hers even in sleep. The bracelet on her wrist caught the light, the tiny bridge charm glinting. It feels different for me too, she admitted. Good different. His eyes met hers, then steady and open in the quiet. No grand declarations, no promises, just a shared understanding that something had shifted. Outside, snow began to fall again, dusting the street in white. Inside, under the soft glow of the tree and the drape of blankets, Emma let herself lean back into the cushions, 2 small bodies warm against her, and allowed the feeling of belonging to settle without argument. January slid in quietly. The lights came down from most houses on Willow Court. The inflatable snowman in the Parker's yard finally retired to the garage. Snowbanks turned from fresh white to the gray of daily life, edged with sand and salt. Emma fell into her routines again, but they did not feel like the old rhythms exactly. In the mornings, she walked into Northside Deaf Academy with a travel mug in one hand and a bag of folders in the other. The hallways echoed with the silent rush of children boots, squeaking on tile, winter coats puffed out like bright balloons. Hands flashed everywhere, little storms of language as kids swapped stories about cartoons and homework and whose mittens were lost again. In her classroom, Emma drew fractions on the board and watched 20 pairs of eyes track her chalk. She moved among the desks, bending to explain a problem, with a gesture tapping a shoulder when attention drifted to the window where snowflakes spun lazily. During reading time, she sat in a circle with them on the carpet. A girl named Tia leaned into her side to see the pictures better. A boy named Jordan signed very seriously about how the dragon in the story reminded him of his older brother. Emma listened with her hands and her eyes and her whole face the way she always had. But there was a new softness in the edges of her thoughts now, like another part of her life sat in the background, warm and waiting. Most afternoons, when the last student had been claimed by a parent or a bus, Emma sat alone at her desk for a few minutes. She recorded notes, stacked papers, checked her email. Then, almost without deciding, she picked up her phone and typed the same text. "Leaving school now? Do you need anything?" Sometimes the reply from Noah came fast. "Milk always. And if you can stand 3 extra minutes, we are out of bananas." Sometimes it was from Evelyn instead. "We are good," she wrote once. "Just come. The girls are bouncing off the walls." On those days, Emma drove to Willow Court. The first time she walked through the front door after Christmas, Mia and Layla tackled her, at the same time nearly knocking her back outside. "You came," Mia said. "Of course," Emma told her. "I like it here." After that, they stopped being surprised. Expectant felt more accurate. On Tuesdays, she helped with math homework at the kitchen table, checking answers while the smell of tomato sauce drifted from the stove. On Thursdays, she showed the girls new signs for songs they were learning at school. They grabbed her wrists and insisted she sit on the floor between them while they practiced. "This is how you do the chorus," Mia said, her hands flying. "Not like that," Layla insisted. "Your hands look like you are squishing bugs." Evelyn started leaving a second mug on the counter around the time Emma usually arrived, steam already curling from the top. "Sit," she would sign, pushing a plate of something toward Emma. "Muffins sometimes. Apple slices other times. We can talk. The children have homework. They do not need us hovering." They talked about teaching, about old friends, about the odd feeling of being both inside and outside the hearing world. Sometimes they did not talk at all, just sat at the table, while the girls argued over crayons in the next room, and the heater hummed underfoot. Noah was often at the table too, blueprints spread where cookie trays had been in December. He sketched while the girls worked. Pencil lines curved into arches, pillars, crossbeams. The Park Bridge project occupied one corner of the table for weeks. He would tap the paper with his pencil. "I am stuck on this support," he confessed one evening, frowning. "They want it to look light, but it still has to hold real people. It cannot just be pretty." He turned the page toward Emma. "What do you think?" he asked, signing along. She studied the lines. The sketch showed a simple path over a deep, narrow ravine in a city park she knew by sight. She could imagine strollers rolling across, teenagers leaning over the railing, someone in a wheelchair watching the water below. "It needs space here," she said, pointing to the edge. "Somewhere wide enough for a wheelchair to turn. And lights, so deaf people can see each other's hands at night." He sat back. "I did not think of that," he said. His gaze caught hers. "Thank you." The bridge on paper began to change after that. Extra notes appeared in the margins. "Lighting for signing," one read. "Clear railings for sightlines," another said. The girls slipped between all of it. Some days they demanded his full attention, waving test papers in his face until he admired every single star. Other days they were content to lean against Emma's shoulder while she read to them, their fingers idly tracing the patterns on her bracelet. Sometimes on the drive home to her apartment, Emma missed the noise before she had even pulled away from Willow Court. Her own place felt smaller now, not worse, just different. She still had her own quiet rituals. Tea at the little table by the window, lists on the fridge, Saturday mornings when she did not speak to anyone at all before noon. She still touched the ring on her bracelet at night before she went to sleep, the metal cool against her thumb. In late January, an email appeared in her inbox between a notice from the principal and a sale announcement from a grocery store. Subject: teaching opportunity at Northwest Deaf Learning Center. She almost deleted it without opening, assuming it was some kind of advertisement. Then she saw the sender's name. It was from an old classmate from her university program, someone who had moved to Seattle years ago. "Hi, Emma," the message read. "We have an opening next fall. 3rd grade deaf program. It is a strong school. Small classes, great community, solid funding. It made me think of you. If you have any interest, let me know, or I can send you the posting." Emma read the lines twice. The phrase strong school seemed to glow. Solid funding, great community, 3rd grade. Images flooded her. Classrooms with more resources. Field trips with interpreters required by policy, not begged for as favors. A team of deaf teachers and hearing allies. A city with mountains and water and a different kind of horizon. Seattle had never been on her list. She had not had a list at all recently. The idea of moving anywhere had felt as abstract as traveling to the moon. She sat back in her chair. The classroom around her was empty chairs pushed in the afternoon light, slanting across posters and bulletin boards. Dust motes drifted lazily. Her cursor hovered over the reply button. "Thank you," she wrote. "I would like to see the posting." She hit send. The job description arrived a few minutes later. experienced deaf educator, collaborative team, emphasis on bilingual ASL and English instruction, competitive salary, and relocation assistance. Her stomach twisted. It felt like opportunity and upheaval pressed into the same space. That evening at Willow Court, the kitchen smelled like chicken roasting and rosemary. Snow tapped lightly against the window, in a rhythm she could feel through the floor. The girls were coloring at the table. Evelyn was at the stove. Noah rinsed potatoes at the sink. Emma sat at the end of the table with her phone in front of her, the job posting open. Every few seconds she locked the screen, then unlocked it again, as if the words might change. Mia noticed first. "What is that?" she asked, peering over. "A game?" "No," Emma said. "A work thing." She slid the phone face down, but she knew the action had not gone unnoticed by the adults in the room. Evelyn glanced over from the stove. "Something about school," she asked. Emma took a breath. "There is a position in Seattle," she signed. "At a deaf school. A good one. 3rd grade." She watched their faces carefully. Noah's hands stilled under the running water. Evelyn turned off a burner before the pot boiled over. The girls looked from one adult to another, not following all of it yet, but sensing the shift in the air. "Seattle is far," Layla said quietly. "Some cities currently?" "Yes," Emma answered. "Very far." She waited for someone to say the thing she almost wanted and almost dreaded to hear. That you should stay. That you should go. That they needed her. That they did not. Noah shut off the faucet and dried his hands on a towel. He turned toward her fully. "Seattle," he said. His mouth formed the word slowly, clearly. His hands repeated it. "That sounds huge." "It is," she said. "They have more resources than we can imagine here. They work with families. They have a whole team of deaf teachers. It is the kind of place you think about when you are in school, but you do not think will actually call you." The girls watched her with wide eyes. Evelyn's expression had gone very still, the kind of stillness that meant she was working to keep other reactions from her face. "Are you going?" Mia asked. Emma hesitated. "I do not know," she said honestly. "I only read about it today." Noah picked up a potato without seeming to notice and set it down again. "You should apply if it pulls at you," he said. His tone was even almost calm. His hands moved a fraction slower than usual, as if he was choosing each word. "Do not decide anything because of us. That would be a bad way to make a decision." Emma felt something inside her tighten and loosen at the same time. "I was not planning to decide tonight," she said. Good, Evelyn signed. "Decisions like that need time, and tea." She reached for the kettle, as if that settled it. The girls exchanged a look over their crayons. Mia slid a green one back and forth between her fingers. "If you go," she said, "will you still text us?" Noah said softly. "It is a fair question," Emma replied. As Emma replied, she met Mia's gaze. "Yes," she said, "I would still text you." She did not say anything more. The rest lived in the silence at the center of the table, in the way Noah's jaw worked as he started cutting potatoes, in the way Evelyn set mugs on the counter a little more carefully than necessary. Dinner went on. The chicken came out of the oven golden and smelling like every good Sunday meal Emma had ever known. The girls argued about whose turn it was to set the table. Someone spilled peas. Someone else burned a tongue on hot gravy. They talked about school and a new girl in Layla's class who had brought a lizard for show and tell. They argued about which movie to watch later. They laughed when Noah tried to imitate a teacher's strict face and failed. The job in Seattle sat quietly in Emma's phone on the counter. It did not go away. It did not demand anything yet. It waited like another possible bridge drawn in faint pencil lines, not sure where or if it would ever be built. For the next few days, the word Seattle followed Emma everywhere. It sat at the back of her mind while she brushed snow off her car before dawn. It threaded through her lesson plans, a thin, persistent line under the bolder strokes of fractions and spelling lists. It rode along in the quiet spaces between signs and conversations that were about something else entirely. Her nights felt too long. In her apartment, the small tree in the corner still glowed, though some of its lights had given up. One bulb near the top flickered on and off at its own rhythm. Emma sat on the couch with her laptop balanced on her knees, the job posting open yet again. Northwest Deaf Learning Center, 3rd grade. Collaborate with a team of deaf and hearing professionals. Competitive salary. Relocation assistance. Her cursor hovered at the edge of the screen. She scrolled up and down, rereading the same lines. In her imagination, the building grew clearer. Hallways where every conversation was signed. A staff meeting where she would not be the only person asking for interpreters. Students with resources she had only ever read about in articles. Her hand drifted to her bracelet. The tiny bridge charm cooled under her thumb. When she closed her eyes, she saw Mia and Layla's faces instead. Layla asking Seattle is far. Mia asking, will you still text us? Emma shut the laptop so fast the sound startled her, even contained inside her own chest. She set it on the coffee table and leaned back. On the shelf above the television, a framed picture watched her. It was one of the few she had let herself keep out. Lucas sat at a picnic table, elbows on the wood sunlight on his hair. His mouth was mid-word, but his eyes were already laughing. What would you tell me to do? She asked him, speaking to the quiet room. There was, of course, no answer. The next morning at school, the hallways smelled like wet wool and pencil shavings. Emma slipped into her classroom before the first bell and wrote the day's agenda on the board. Her handwriting was neat enough that several of her colleagues had asked her to do posters for them over the years. As her students filed in shaking snow from hats and hoods, she watched each face in the doorway. Tia, with her pink backpack and serious eyes. Jordan, who always arrived with one mitten missing. A boy named Malik, who had finally stopped flinching whenever someone tapped his shoulder. During math, she circulated among their desks. Jordan's numbers drifted off the lines. Tia had turned her fraction circles into small suns. Malik stared out the window marker resting in his fingers. She touched the edge of his desk lightly. He looked up, blinking back from wherever his thoughts had gone. Stuck, she asked. He shrugged. It is too many pieces, he signed. She sat on the empty chair beside him and drew a quick circle on scratch paper, shading parts and breaking problems down. When his eyes lit with understanding, she felt the small, sharp rush of satisfaction that had been her anchor for the last 3 years. What would happen to them if she left in June? Someone else would step in. Another teacher would take her place, stand at the front of this room, and draw circles. The world did not stop for one person's departure. Still, as she watched Malik's hands move confidently through the rest of the problem, the idea of not being here for his next breakthrough turned heavy in her stomach. At lunch in the staff room, the hum of adult conversation surrounded her. Chairs scraped, microwaves beeped. 2 teachers compared notes on winter break trips. Someone complained about the copy machine. Emma sat at one end of the table with her salad container open and her phone beside it. The Seattle email icon glowed quietly on the screen. What has you so focused? Asked Dana, the 5th grade teacher, dropping into the seat across from her. Emma glanced up. Dana had a habit of talking with her whole body, hands moving, even when she was not signing, dark curls bouncing with every nod. Work thing, Emma said, signing the same. Good work thing or bad work thing? Dana asked. Emma hesitated. A possible work thing, she replied. A job in Seattle, deaf school. Someone I know sent it. Dana's eyebrows rose. That sounds big, she said. Are you going to go for it? I do not know, Emma said. Dana chewed thoughtfully for a moment. When I moved here from Chicago, everyone told me I was nuts, she said. Leaving family, leaving the school I already loved. But I kept thinking about 10 years from now. Which decision would I regret more? Which did you regret more? Emma asked. Dana smiled. I regret the winter, she said, not the rest. Emma huffed a quiet breath that might have been a laugh. After school, after the last child had bounded out, Emma sat alone in the empty classroom for a long minute. The hush of the room pressed around her. Desks waited in neat rows. The faded alphabet border along the wall had a tear near the letter M, where someone had picked at it during a long spelling test. Her phone buzzed. Leaving school now? Need anything, she typed, without thinking. The reply from Noah came while she was zipping her coat. Just you, he wrote. And if you are passing a store milk? At Willow Court, the air in the house felt a little different. Not colder, just stretched. The girls were still loud. Evelyn still moved with sure steps in the kitchen. Noah still had papers spread on the table. Yet every so often a quiet would slip in, as if everyone in the room remembered the word Seattle at the same time. That Thursday, Emma helped Mia sort vocabulary cards, while Layla drew a story in her journal. Evelyn sat at the end of the table, knitting a lumpy scarf that she claimed was intentional. Noah shuffled through a stack of engineering reports, pen caught in his hand. The conversation was normal on the surface. School stories, a neighbor's new dog, a recipe that had gone wrong the night before. When the girls finally burst off toward the living room to build a fort, and Evelyn followed with a plate of sliced apples, the table fell quiet. Noah tapped his pen once, then set it down carefully. Have you heard anything more from Seattle? He asked. Emma looked at him. The light from the overhead fixture reflected in his eyes, making them seem a shade lighter. They want applications by the end of February, she said. There might be interviews in March. It is all still if and maybe. Do you want it? He asked. The question landed between them with more weight than the words themselves. I do not know, she signed. I want what it could mean. For my work, my students, for being somewhere that was built with people like me in mind. She lifted her hands again before he could respond. But I do not want to leave here either. My class, my parents, you, your family. The last two signs came out before she could second-guess them. Her cheeks warmed. She did not take them back. Noah watched her, his face unreadable for a few seconds. I meant what I said, he replied. You should not stay because of us. It felt like the right thing for him to say. It felt like a cut at the same time. She frowned. That sounds like you are already letting go, she said. He shook his head. I am trying not to hold you, he said. He searched for the signs, fingers moving slowly. I know how much it hurts to have your life shrink because of someone else's needs. It is not shrinking, she protested. He held up a hand not to stop her, but to slow the exchange. I am saying, he said, if you decide not to go, I want it to be because staying feels like movement, not because you were afraid to move. The words were careful, almost rehearsed. She recognized the effort behind them, the way he was trying to give her room. She also recognized the fear underneath. You are afraid I will resent you, she said softer. He looked away first toward the doorway where muffled giggles floated in from the other room. I am afraid you would wake up one day and wish you had gone, he admitted, and that you would blame us even a little. Emma's stomach twisted. I am afraid that if I go, I will wake up one day and realize I walked away from the only thing that felt like a home again, she said. Their hands fell still at the same time. From the living room, Mia shouted something about the fort collapsing. Layla shrieked with laughter. Evelyn's voice floated back, calling out instructions. Emma pushed her chair back slowly. I should help them, she said. Noah nodded. Yeah, he said. His gaze stayed on his papers, although his fingers did not pick up the pen again. The distance between them was only the width of the table. It felt wider when she stood. Later that week, Evelyn caught Emma alone. It happened on a Sunday afternoon when the girls were at a friend's birthday party, and Noah had taken advantage of the rare quiet to run to the hardware store. Emma had come over to help Evelyn rearrange some shelves in the dining room. They worked together in comfortable silence for a while, lifting stacks of plates, dusting, setting things back with more order than before. Sunlight from the window cut across the table in a bright bar. Outside, branches scraped gently against the glass. When they paused for tea in the kitchen, Evelyn poured hot water into mugs, the steam fogging her glasses. She set the kettle down and turned to Emma fully. Sit, she signed. My knees need a break, and I have been watching you think yourself into knots. Emma let out a breath that was almost a laugh. Is it that obvious, she asked. To someone who has done it, yes, Evelyn answered. I recognize the look. They sat at the table, hands wrapped around warm ceramic. The clock on the wall ticked in a steady rhythm. When I was young, Evelyn signed, my parents did not want me to leave home. They were afraid for me. The world was not kind to girls who could not hear. She traced the rim of her mug with one finger. There was a deaf school 2 states away, she went on. I wanted to go, to be with others like me, to stop fighting for half a conversation. Did you go? Emma asked. Not at first, Evelyn said. I stayed, helped in my father's shop, went to church where no one signed, pretended my world was enough. Emma watched her hands. The motions were slower now, edged with memory. Then one day she continued, I realized I was angry all the time, at my parents, at God, at myself. I was small in my own life. That scared me more than leaving. So you left? Emma said. Evelyn nodded. I told them I loved them, she signed, and that if they wanted to see me whole, not half, they would have to let me go. They did not understand, but they let me pack a suitcase. That school saved me. She sat back. I am not telling you to go to Seattle, she said, or to stay. I am saying do not choose from fear. Do not stay because you are afraid to leave. Do not leave because you are afraid to care too much and lose it. Emma's eyes stung. What if either way hurts someone? She asked. Them, me. Evelyn's mouth softened. Then you make the hurt worth it, she replied, by living fully inside the choice you make. They sat with that. The kettle ticked as it cooled. Somewhere outside, a car passed tires hissing softly on the wet street. The next week, the email from Seattle arrived. Hi, Emma, the coordinator wrote. Just checking in. We are starting to schedule interviews. If you are interested, please send your application by Friday. If not, no pressure. We would still love to stay connected. Friday. The word might as well have been underlined. It hummed in her pocket all day. During recess duty, while she watched kids throw snowballs into trash cans. In the staff room, as she stirred creamer into her coffee. On the drive to Willow Court, windshield wipers squeaking across glass. That night, after she had helped Mia assemble a lopsided snowman in the front yard and shared pasta at the table and pretended to watch a movie while Layla leaned heavily against her shoulder, she went home and sat at her own kitchen table with her laptop open. The application form stared back at her. Name, experience, statement of teaching philosophy. Her fingers rested on the keys. She typed her name, her current job title. Right in the middle of the box labeled, "Why are you interested in this position?" She stopped. If she hit send, she might leave. If she did not, the offer would pass to someone else. Either way, a version of her life would vanish. Her apartment was very quiet. The only light came from the tree in the corner and the glow of the screen. On the wall, the heater clicked and hummed, trying to keep up with the cold pressing at the windows. Emma closed the laptop and pressed the heels of her hands against her eyes until spots danced behind them. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly stuck. If she stayed, she might always wonder who she would have been in that school in Seattle, in that city where she had not yet stood on any bridge. If she went, she would be the one walking away from a table where someone had kept a chair open for her. From a house where the air tasted like cinnamon, and laughter from two little girls who had decided that visiting twice meant family. She sat there until the tree lights timed out and clicked off. The sudden dimness made the room feel smaller. In the dark, with the bracelet cool against her skin, and the ghost of the Pacific Northwest hovering in lines of text on a sleeping screen, it felt for a moment as if every direction meant losing something she was not sure she could afford to lose. The message from Noah came on a Wednesday afternoon, squeezed between a reminder from her dentist and a notification about a sale on winter boots. "Can you come by for a bit after school? Girls are at a play date. Mom is home. I want to show you something." No smiley face, no extra words to soften the edges, just that. Emma stared at her phone in the empty classroom. The last of her students had left 10 minutes earlier, trails of wet snow leading out the door. The room felt hollow without them, chairs pushed in the faint smell of dry erase marker lingering in the air. She typed back before she could talk herself out of it. "Sure, I will be there." The sun was already low when she pulled up to Willow Court. The Parkers' house sat in a wash of pale light. Snowbanks framed the driveway, crusted over and sparkling faintly. One of the Christmas light strands still hung along the roofline, although nobody had turned it on. In the front window, the tree was gone. Only a clean square of floor showed where it had stood. The house looked a little less magical, a little more like an ordinary home in winter. Emma knocked and felt the thump of footsteps through her knuckles. Evelyn opened the door. She had traded her snowflake apron for a thick cardigan. Her new blue scarf was looped around her neck. "Emma," she signed with a smile. "Good, come in. He is in the back." He in this context needed no explanation. "Everything all right?" Emma asked, unwinding her scarf. "Yes," Evelyn said. "Just talk. Go see. I will make tea." The way she held Emma's gaze made it clear this was not an emergency, but not nothing either. The house was quieter than Emma had ever heard it. No cartoon theme songs, no high-pitched arguments about whose turn it was. The silence was soft, not heavy. She stepped out of her boots and followed the familiar path past the living room and kitchen. A sliver of light showed under a door near the back of the house. She paused to knock. "Come in," Noah called. The word reached her more as vibration than sound, but she caught the shape of it too when he turned his head. Emma opened the door. The room beyond was half storage, half workshop. Concrete floor. One wall lined with shelves holding neatly labeled bins. Another with hooks for tools, each one hanging in its place. The air smelled like sawdust and cold metal, with a faint hint of motor oil. In the middle of the space sat a workbench. On top of it was a model. It was a bridge. Not the kind that spanned a wide river or a highway. Smaller. A pedestrian bridge arching over what was currently empty air, but would clearly be a ravine in the full design. The structure was made of thin wood and foam hand-cut and carefully glued. One end was attached firmly to a base. The other end reached out and stopped suspended just short of its landing. Noah stood beside the table. He wore an old flannel shirt over a t-shirt sleeves rolled above his elbows. A smear of what might be glue streaked one forearm. He looked up when she entered, then gestured toward the model with his chin. "Thanks for coming," he said. His hands followed. "I promise this is not a trap to make you help with math homework." "That is a relief," she signed, stepping closer. "Your daughters are ruthless with fractions." He smiled, quick and genuine, then looked back at the bridge. "You have been working on it," she said. He nodded. "Started it a long time ago," he said, "but it changed shape along the way." She walked around the table, examining the model from the side. From this angle, it was easier to see the details. The way the support beams crisscrossed under the walkway, the suggestion of railings not yet fully attached, the empty space where the second base should be. "One end stops," she signed. "The other has nowhere to land yet." "Story of my life," Noah said lightly, but his eyes did not quite match the tone. Emma let her fingers rest on the edge of the table. The wood was cool under her skin. "Tell me," she said. He took a breath in, long and steady, then let it out. "I started this after Jenna died," he said. His hands moved with the words slower, more deliberate than usual. "I thought if I could design something that got other people across a gap, maybe it would feel like I was figuring out my own." He lifted one of the small support pieces and turned it between his fingers. "At first it was just about doing something with my hands," he went on. "The girls were napping, or they were with my mom, and I would come out here and cut pieces until my fingers hurt. I glued and sanded and measured. It felt like control." He set the piece down almost exactly where it had been. "But it never got past halfway," he said. "I could not decide what the other side looked like. The park wanted clean lines. The city wanted it cheap. I could not get any of it to make sense." He shook his head once, a small, frustrated movement. "The truth is," he added, "I did not know where I was going in my own head, so I could not make the bridge go anywhere either." Emma listened, hands still on the table. Her eyes traced the length of the bridge again from the anchored side to the empty reach. "You know now," she said. His mouth tilted. "Some days," he answered, "more than I did." He turned fully toward her. "The other night when we talked about Seattle," he said, "I realized something. I have been standing on this side of the ravine for 2 years. He tapped the finished end of the bridge, the side where Jenna is gone, where everything is about getting through the day, making sure the girls do not fall apart, making sure I do not fall apart in front of them." He lifted his hand palm up. Then suddenly, there was this new thing he said. Not Seattle, not a job. A person who walked into the restaurant where I had taken the girls for fries and made them eat carrots. His gaze held hers. "You," his hands spelled. Emma's chest tightened. Noah's fingers flexed once as if he was resisting the urge to shove them in his pockets. "Emma," he said her name. "Careful these last months with you, here at our table in this house, have been the first time it has felt like there might be another side to this ravine. A place that is not just survival. A place I might actually want to be." His throat worked. "I am scared to say this," he admitted, "because I know what you have lost, and what I have lost. And I do not want to be another person who makes your life harder. But I also do not want to pretend this is not happening." His hands shaped something that was almost clumsy with honesty. "I am starting to have feelings for you," he signed. "Real ones. Not just friend, not just thank you for loving my kids. More." The room felt very still. Even the faint hum from the small heater in the corner seemed to recede. Emma's grip on the edge of the table tightened. Her pulse thudded in her throat. She had imagined this moment in a dozen wrong ways. In some versions, it had been sudden and too much all heat and urgency that did not fit the quiet, careful man in front of her. In others, it had never come at all, everything staying exactly as it was, until she slipped away quietly to another city, another life. This felt different, solid, terrifying. Her fingers lifted. "I am scared too," she signed. Her voice, when it came, almost surprised her. "I do," she said quietly, "have feelings. For you, for them, for this house. That is part of the problem." His shoulders dropped a fraction, as if a weight he had not realized he was carrying had shifted and resettled. "Part of the problem," he repeated. "That sounds promising and awful at the same time." She gave a small, watery laugh. "I am afraid," she continued, hands moving again, "that if we try and it breaks, I will lose all of it. You, the girls, Evelyn. This place where I finally started to feel less alone." Her eyes stung. She blinked, but tears slipped free anyway, tracking warm and annoying down her cheeks. "Everyone I have loved in that way has been taken," she said. "Lucas. Then the idea of anyone else. I built a life that was safe. Work home, nothing messy. Coming here broke that in the best way, but it still feels like standing at the edge of something very high." Noah stepped around the table, leaving the model between them and drawing closer to her side. "I do not want to break anything," he said. His hands echoed it. "I do not know if I can promise I will not screw up. I am human. I am tired. I am still grieving. But I can promise I will not vanish because something is hard. I have already done that once by shutting myself down. It did not work." He stood close enough now that she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the way his hair curled a little where the flannel collar rubbed. "We do not have to call it anything big today," he said. "We can just say out loud that this is more than friendship, and see what it feels like to not run from that." Emma looked past him for a second at the unfinished end of the bridge, the small span reaching out into air, waiting. "Slow," she signed. "If we do this, it has to be slow." His mouth softened. "Slow I can do," he said. "Slow I am good at." Her laugh came out on a small hiccup. She wiped at her cheeks with the heels of her hands. The movement jostled the quiet in the room, enough that another sound crept in. A soft scuff near the doorway, a whisper. Emma turned her head. Mia and Layla stood just inside the room, half hidden behind the doorframe. Both were still in their school clothes. Layla clutched a stuffed rabbit. Mia's socks did not match. Their eyes were huge. "How long have you been there?" Noah asked, more startled than stern. Mia stepped fully into the room, guilt and excitement wrestling on her face. "A little while," she admitted. "We came home. Grandma said you were in here. We wanted to see." Layla edged closer, staring at the model first, then at the two adults. "Are you going to be boyfriend and girlfriend?" she asked, words careful hands following. "Because Grandma says it is about time." Emma's mouth fell open. Noah made a strangled sound that might have been a cough. "We need to talk to Grandma about boundaries," he muttered mostly to himself. Mia glanced at Emma. "We like it when you are here," she said in sign. Dad smiles with his eyes again. "He did not do that before you." Layla nodded firmly. "If you are scared," she added, "we can wait while you go slow. We are 6. We know slow. Slow is when you are not allowed to open presents yet." Emma's laugh burst out before she could stop it. It came with another tear which felt unfair. Noah rubbed a hand over his face. "You two," he said, "are something else." "We know," they replied together. Emma looked at Noah. The model bridge sat between them and the girls, small and fragile and possible. "All right," she signed. "To him, to them. We can try. Slowly." Noah's shoulders eased. The tightness around his mouth softened into a real smile. "Okay," he said. "Slow works." Mia squealed and launched herself at both of them, at once wrapping her arms around Emma's waist and grabbing onto Noah's leg. Layla joined, more gently pressing herself against Emma's side. "Group hug," Mia declared. "Careful," Noah said, glancing at the workbench. "Do not knock the bridge." Emma reached back with one hand steadying the model lightly. Her fingers rested on the incomplete span, holding it just long enough to keep it in place. Going slow turned out to mean a lot of ordinary things. It meant nothing changed on the surface at first. Emma still came by after school, still helped with homework at the kitchen table, still sat on the floor between Mia and Layla while they practiced new signs. Noah still spread his bridge plans out where the cookie trays once lived. Evelyn still moved around them like a quiet planet, steady and sure. The difference lived in small moments lodged between all of that. The way Noah's hand brushed hers when he passed a bowl and did not jerk away. The way Emma's eyes found his in the middle of a group conversation and held 1 second longer than they had before. The way their voices softened when the girls ran out of the room and left them with a pocket of quiet. Their first official date happened on a Friday in late February, after the girls had gone to a classmate's sleepover and Evelyn had declared herself busy with crossword puzzles and a documentary. Noah stood in the kitchen with his keys in his hand, looking almost as unsure as Emma felt. "Are we really calling it a date?" he asked, half joking, half not, his lips and hands matching the words. Emma had pulled on a dark green dress that made her feel less like a teacher and more like herself. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "We are 2 people eating dinner without children," she signed. "That seems like it counts." He huffed a breath that might have been a laugh. "In that case," he said, "yes, it is a date." They chose a quiet bistro across town, the kind of place where the lighting was soft and the tables were spaced far enough apart that they did not feel like they were sitting in anyone else's conversations. The host's mouth moved in a welcome, and Noah repeated it for Emma automatically, a habit that made the corners of her chest go warm. At the table, their hands did what their mouths could not quite manage. They talked about their days, about an incident involving glitter in Mia's classroom that had apparently ruined an entire carpet, about a student in Emma's class who had finally grasped multiplication. When their fingers brushed across the salt shaker at the same time, neither of them pulled away too quickly. Outside afterward, breath puffing white in the cold air, they walked slowly toward Noah's car. Snow had frozen in thin ridges on the sidewalk. The wind tugged at Emma's scarf. Noah slid his hands into his pockets, then pulled one out again. "Is this," he asked, looking at their feet as much as at her, "the part where I ask if I can hold your hand, or is that too fast for slow?" Emma smiled. "You can ask," she said. "Asking is never too fast." He held out his hand, palm up. She placed hers in it. It was not fireworks, not a jolt. It was warmth, solid, familiar in a way that made something unclench inside her. Their fingers interlaced. The small distance between them closed a little. They did not kiss that night or the next. The first time his lips touched hers came a few weeks later in the Parkers' kitchen after the girls had finally crashed from a day of sledding. sene, and hot chocolate, and endless rounds of a game that required them to jump from couch cushion to couch cushion to avoid imaginary lava. The house had gone quiet. Evelyn had retreated to her room with a book. The sink held a stack of sticky mugs. The only light came from the small lamp in the corner, by the stove casting a warm circle over the counter. Emma stood by the sink hands and dishwater that had gone lukewarm. Noah dried a plate, his movements slow, almost meditative. "You do not have to do dishes," he said, even as he took another from the rack. "You cooked," she said. "I can clean. That is the rule." He set the plate in the cabinet and closed the door. When he turned back, he did not reach for another towel. Instead, he stepped in front of her, not crowding, just close enough that she could smell the faint mix of soap and something warmer on his skin. His hands hesitated in the air between them. "Can I?" he asked. He did not finish the sentence out loud, but his eyes made the rest of it clear. Her heart beat faster, but not with panic, with something like anticipation. "Yes," she said. He leaned in slow, careful. Their noses brushed. His lips met hers in a kiss that was almost tentative. No rush, no demand. A question more than anything. Emma answered by leaning in too. Heat bloomed low in her chest, not the wildfire of first love, all reckless and bright, but a steady warmth that felt like it could last through a long winter. When they parted, both of them smiled in the small way of people who are not ready to laugh about something yet, because it matters too much. "That was not terrible," Noah said. Voice soft. "Not terrible at all," Emma agreed. They kept their promise about slow. Their days still revolved around the girls' schedules, schoolwork, dinner, homework, bedtime. Their nights added brief pockets of something just for them. A shared cup of tea after the house was quiet. Fingers intertwined under the edge of a blanket when they watched a movie with captions. A second kiss, then a third. Seattle still sat in Emma's inbox. The email from the coordinator that week had been polite and apologetic. "We are starting interviews next week," it read. "We would hate to miss you if you were interested. If we do not hear from you by Wednesday, we will assume you are not applying this round." Wednesday. On Tuesday night, Emma sat at the Parkers' kitchen table, while Mia and Layla spread construction paper and markers everywhere. They were making signs for some elaborate puppet show involving sock puppets and a cardboard stage. "This one says, 'Welcome,'" Mia told her, letters uneven across the page. "It is for you." Layla colored in a bridge she had drawn, complete with tiny stick figures crossing. "This is Dad's bridge," she said. "And us. And you." The words landed in Emma's chest and joined the rest. Noah sat at the other end of the table, pencil, tapping against a sketch of the real bridge project. Evelyn stirred something on the stove that smelled like garlic and herbs. Every few minutes, Emma's phone buzzed softly in her pocket, a ghost of time passing. Later, when the girls were in the living room, turning socks into characters, and Evelyn was hunting for the good spatula, Emma slipped into the hallway and pulled out her phone. The email to Seattle sat open, cursor blinking in the box meant for questions. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She could still send an application. She could still step onto a path that led to a different city, a different set of kids, a staff full of colleagues who signed like breathing. She looked back toward the kitchen. Through the doorway, she could see part of Noah's profile, the curve of his jaw as he listened to something Evelyn was saying, the way his hand absently reached for the mug near his elbow. She could hear the faint vibrations of the girls' voices from the living room, high and bright. Emma turned back to the phone. "Thank you so much for thinking of me," she typed. "After a lot of thought, I have decided not to apply this round. My work and life here are where they need me to be right now. I would love to stay in touch in case the timing is different in the future." She read it twice, making sure it was honest. Then she hit send. The little whoosh animation felt bigger than it had any right to. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. It left her feeling lighter and oddly raw, like skin after a bandage comes off. At dinner, she did not mention it. The evening rolled on as evenings did. Chicken rice stories about a kid in Mia's class who had brought his pet snake to show. Layla's detailed explanation of why socks made excellent puppets but terrible gloves. Only when the girls had insisted on a full performance of their puppet play, and Evelyn had clapped so hard her hands must have stung, did a quiet moment open again. Noah found Emma in the kitchen afterward, rinsing plates. The flashlight magnet on the fridge had fallen again, and he caught it before it hit the floor, sticking it back with a firm press. "Hey," he said, drawing her attention. His hands followed. "Did you ever decide about Seattle?" Emma dried her hands on a dish towel, buying herself a second. "Yes," she said. She pulled her phone out and opened the sent messages, turning the screen so he could read. His eyes moved over the lines. She watched his face for any hitch, any flicker. "You turned it down," he said quietly. I did, she answered. His fingers flexed around the edge of the counter. Emma, he began. She could see the words forming before he signed them. You did not have to do that for us. I do not want to be the reason you miss something big. A flicker of frustration warmed her skin. I did not do it for you, she said. Or not only for you. He fell silent. She stepped closer enough that he could see the steadiness in her eyes. I am not giving up an opportunity, she signed slowly, each word clear. I am choosing what I want. There is a difference. Her hand brushed her chest, then moved outward. I want my students, she said. I want my parents close enough to see on weekends. I want your mother's kitchen. I want 2 6-year-olds who think I can talk vegetables into behaving. I want you. The last sign hung in the air between them, simple and unadorned. His expression shifted, something like relief and something like awe blending together. Do you know, he said, voice rougher than usual, that is the bravest thing I have ever seen anyone do. She smiled small. I am tired of being scared, she admitted. If I am going to be afraid, I would rather be afraid while living the life I want, not the one I settled for. He stepped closer, still closing the gap at the edge of the counter. They stood so near now that the warmth of his body reached her across the last inch. His hand lifted, hovering near her cheek, as if asking permission. She did not move away. I love you, Emma Cole, he said. He did not sign it right away, like his voice needed its own turn. Then his hands followed, shaping the words she had watched her students practice in class plays and Valentine skits, only now they felt heavy or real. Something in her chest that had been braced for months, maybe years, loosened. I love you too, she answered. The signs came easily, like they had been waiting in her fingers. Behind them, someone gasped. Emma turned her head. Mia and Layla stood in the doorway, sock puppets dangling from their hands, mouths open. You said it, Mia whispered. For real. Layla's eyes shone. We knew she informed them, but it is good you know now too. Noah groaned softly, dropping his forehead to Emma's shoulder for a second. We need to put bells on them, he said, words muffled. Emma laughed, the sound bubbling up through all the layers of emotion and settling somewhere bright. Mia marched into the kitchen and planted her sock puppet on the edge of the counter. This one says congratulations, she announced in sign and speech. He is the love puppet. Noah scrunched his face. That is not a phrase we are ever saying in public, he said. Emma wiped at her eyes, smiling so much her cheeks ached. Evelyn appeared behind the girls, eyes moving quickly from their faces to Emma's, to Noah's. She took in the way they stood, the flush on their cheeks, the bracelet on Emma's wrist catching the light. Yes, she signed simply. About time. The heater kicked on with a low rumble. Snow ticked softly against the window. In the circle of light above the kitchen counter, 4 pairs of hands moved, overlapping, intercepting, weaving a new pattern together, a language of their own choosing. By the time spring came, snow retreated in shy patches from the edges of sidewalks, and the days stayed lighter a little longer. The bridge in the park finally moved from model to construction. Steel and concrete began to rise where Emma had once only seen Noah's pencil lines. Their lives did not flip upside down with the words I love you. They thickened. There were still mornings when Emma woke to the ache of old grief, still nights when Noah stared at the ceiling longer than he meant to. Those moments started sharing space with new ones. The girls bursting into their room on a Saturday to demand pancakes. Evelyn rolling her eyes when she caught Emma and Noah kissing in the kitchen, but smiling as she did it. Months passed like that, one next to the other, days stacking in quiet layers. One bright afternoon in early summer, they all stood on the Real Park Bridge for the first time. The city had opened it to pedestrians a week earlier. People walked and biked across, testing the spring of the boards, the firmness of the rail. The ravine below caught stray breezes and scraps of sound. Noah leaned his forearms on the railing, watching 2 teenagers race to the far end. Mia and Layla stood on either side of Emma, noses barely above the top bar. Evelyn sat on a nearby bench, with a thermos of tea scarf tucked around her neck, even in the warmth. He did not say anything about the way his shoulders relaxed. He did not have to. It was written in how his fingers drummed against the metal, in the way his eyes moved from one end of the span to the other. You did it, Emma signed, stepping up beside him. It is beautiful. He nodded. That side was the easy part, he said, nodding back toward the parking lot. It was the landing that took time. Mia tugged her sleeve. Are there lights? She asked. Not yet, Noah answered. Soon. So people can see at night. So hands can move in the dark. He glanced at Emma when he said it. She smiled soft and full. That December, 2 Christmases after the night, Emma sat alone in the restaurant. The kitchen smelled like flour again. Snow fell thick and steady outside, blurring the view of Willow Court into a wash of white and gray. Inside, the Parker house buzzed with a different kind of storm. Ribbon trailed across chairs. A string of white lights lay on the table, still tangled. Somewhere in the back room, Mia and Layla were arguing about which shoes went best with which dresses. Emma stood barefoot on the kitchen tile toes, cold heart beating in a rhythm she could not quite name. She wore a simple white dress, the kind that swayed when she moved. Her hair was pinned up haphazardly, strands already slipping free. A small sprig of evergreen and tiny red berries sat at the counter waiting to be tucked behind her ear. Evelyn fussed with a pin near Emma's shoulder. "Hold still," she signed. "You are worse than the girls." "I am nervous," Emma said, "and I have flour on my elbow." She did. They all did. The bread for the reception had seemed like a good idea. Kneading dough had kept her hands busy that morning when her mind threatened to spin. "You look like yourself," Evelyn told her. "That is exactly right." In the next room, the hum of voices rose. A handful of friends from school, Noah's colleagues from the engineering firm, Emma's parents who had driven in the night before and cried when they walked into the Parkers' house and saw a kitchen full of moving hands. Through the window over the sink, Emma could see the backyard. The snow there lay smooth and untouched, except for the path Noah had shoveled from the back door to a small archway they had set up earlier. Evergreen branches framed it, white Christmas lights looped up and over soft against the gray sky. Simple folding chairs lined either side of the aisle, already dusted with a light coating of snow. The cold would nip at everyone's noses. They had agreed that was part of the charm. The kitchen door opened. "Ready?" Noah asked. He filled the doorway in his dark suit tie slightly crooked. His hair had been tamed and then immediately rebelled, curling at his temples. He held a pair of gloves in one hand, her scarf over his arm. He looked at her and froze. For a moment his eyes went wide, like this was the first time he had really seen the white dress, the pinned hair, the ring that would soon have a partner. "You look..." He shook his head once as if the right word had skittered away. His hands rose to fill the gap. "Beautiful," he signed. "You look like you." "That is lucky," she said, trying to slow her pulse with a joke. He stepped closer, careful of the flour still on the counter. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes," terrified, happy. "Me too," he said. Behind him, Mia and Layla craned their necks to see. "Is it time?" Mia whispered. "Almost," Evelyn answered. She shooed Noah back toward the sliding door. "Go, we need a minute." He left them in a swirl of cold air and soft laughter. Evelyn turned back to Emma, eyes bright. "I never thought I would walk a daughter down the aisle," she said. "Life is strange." Emma blinked fast. "I would be honored," she replied. They stood together at the edge of the kitchen, fingers brushing hands, speaking too quickly for anyone else to follow. "You are sure?" Evelyn asked, one last time, a formality more than anything. Emma looked toward the backyard. Through the glass she could see Noah waiting by the arch, breath visible in the air, shoulders squared. Mia and Layla stood a few feet away, each holding a small handful of fake snow, in place of petals, faces flushed and solemn. The gathered guests shifted in their seats, stamping their feet, hands tucked under arms for warmth. "Yes," Emma said, "I am sure." When they stepped out into the cold, the air grabbed at their cheeks. Snow swirled flakes melting in Emma's hair, clinging to the eyelashes of the girls at the end of the aisle. People stood as they walked past. Some clapped, some signed applause hands fluttering silently in the air. Emma's boots left clear marks in the white. Evelyn's fingers rested solidly on her arm. At the arch, Noah reached out. Emma took his hand. The warmth of his skin, even in the freezing air, grounded her more than any deep breath could have. An officiant in a thick coat stood with a small booklet in one gloved hand. "We have gathered," he began, speaking slowly, clearly, pausing so that Evelyn, now standing just behind Emma, could sign each line in turn. The words came in two languages, weaving back and forth between mouth and hand. He spoke of promises and partnership, and the way love could arrive in the middle of ordinary nights. When it was time for vows, Emma and Noah turned toward each other, letting their hands lead. "I promise to look at you when I speak." Emma signed, her fingers steady. "To reach for your hand when things are heavy, to be kind to your tired, to laugh with you when you're good, to learn with you when you're hard." She took a breath that frosted in the air. "I promise to learn the shape of our family as it grows," she continued, "to stand with you on whatever bridges we cross, to keep choosing you." Noah swallowed and his eyes shone. He answered with his own hands. "I promise," he signed, "to keep showing up at the table, to let you see me even when I am messy, to remember that you are not something I have to carry alone, but someone I get to walk with." He nodded toward Mia and Layla, who watched with rapt attention. "I promise to keep being their father," he said, "and to be your partner in that. To listen when our girls tell us the truth. To hold your place when you are tired. To let you hold mine." His throat worked. "And I promise," he finished, "to keep learning how to live again. With you." The rings were simple, silver bands that caught the pale winter light as they slid onto fingers. Metal against skin, cool for a heartbeat, then warming. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said, the words signed right alongside. "You may kiss." Noah smiled, a little crooked, a little stunned. Emma lifted her face. The kiss tasted like snow and cold, and the faint trace of frosting from a cinnamon roll sneaked in the kitchen earlier. From the side, Mia's voice carried. "Wow," she said, clapping with her mittens on. Layla signed applause so vigorously she nearly fell into the snow. Back inside, warmth rushed up to meet them. Coats were hung. Boots were kicked off. Ooses thawed. The house filled with the smell of soup and bread and cocoa. Friends perched wherever they could on chairs on the arm of the couch on the floor. Mia and Layla clung to Emma's dress until she changed into a soft sweater and jeans, relieved to breathe fully again. Evelyn moved from group to group, introducing Emma's parents to neighbors, everyone, hands moving constantly. Someone put music on low in the background. The vibrations rippled through the floor, just enough for Emma to feel it. She watched as Mia and Layla made all the adults practice signing the word married. The years that followed did not flatten into blur, but they did gather. Like pages in a book, they thickened and held. 5 Christmases later, the Parker house looked different and the same. The original couch had been replaced after a juice incident. The walls boasted more photos. Mia and Layla, at 11 taller, now hair longer grins, sharper with new confidence. Noah and Emma on a hike, wind tangling their hair. Evelyn at the park laughing as 3 children pulled her in 3 directions. In one frame, the entire family stood on the pedestrian bridge Noah had designed. Mia and Layla leaned over the rail, snowflakes visible against their dark coats. A small boy in a puffy jacket, cheeks round and red, sat on Noah's shoulders, hands gripping his father's hat. Caleb. He had arrived 2 winters after the wedding, with a shock of dark hair and a quiet gaze that reminded Emma of both Noah and herself. From the beginning, his world had been filled with hands. Mia and Layla crouched beside his crib, signing simple words before he could sit up. Evelyn rocked him in the same old chair, telling stories in the language that had saved her. Emma held him against her chest and whispered to him, even though he could not hear her, because the shape of the words still mattered. On this morning, wrapping paper already covered the living room rug. Mia sprawled on her stomach, examining a new book, wigs kicking idly in the air. Layla sat cross-legged beside her, teaching Caleb how to spell his name in the air. His small fingers fumbled the shape's tongue, poking out in concentration. Evelyn occupied her usual chair scarf, looped around her neck, a mug of tea within easy reach. Her hair was whiter now, but her eyes missed nothing. Emma stood by the tree hanging a new ornament. It was a small circle of clay painted in uneven stripes of purple, green, and red. 3 handprints overlapped in the center, 1 larger, 2 smaller. Around the edge, in careful wobbly letters, someone had written, "We chose each other." She did not need to ask who. Mia's proud stance in the kitchen last week had been answer enough. She placed the ornament near the top of the tree just below the one with the tiny hand signing and the silver snowflake in the little bridge. Light from the string of bulbs glowed through them both. Warm arms slid around her from behind. "Good spot," Noah murmured near her ear. His hands rested on her hips, fingers curved comfortably. She leaned back into him, feeling his heartbeat against her spine. They stood like that for a moment, watching the children. Mia had given up on lying down and now sat cross-legged, hands flying, as she explained something about a science project. Layla listened, then interrupted with her own idea, more practical. Caleb bounced between them, delighted to be included, his signs still baby clumsy but enthusiastic. Evelyn caught Emma's eye and signed across the room. "You did well," she said. "All of you." Emma smiled. "We are trying," she answered. She thought of the first night in the restaurant, the candle burned down, the water glass filled and refilled, while she waited for someone who had decided her deafness was more than he wanted. That text had once felt like an ending stamped in plain language. Now, standing in a living room, full of moving hands and light, it felt like a turn. If Eli had shown up, she would never have been in that booth when 2 determined 5-year-olds ran across the restaurant. She would never have seen a man with tired eyes and a gentle way of signing pick his daughters up off the floor. She would never have followed the pull of carrot negotiations and cookie dough and bedtime stories down a path that led here. Caleb tugged at her sleeve. "Mom," he signed the motion slightly crooked but clear. "Your turn." He held out a lumpy package wrapped in paper that had clearly been reused. Emma took it. The clay ornament had left faint smudges on her fingers. She did not wipe them away. "Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.